question, you've covered this before, but optimal body fat percentage for selection/operational life. I don't think I've talked about the latter. I talked about selection recently and I said give or take 12%, but if you're up to 15, 16, not a huge deal. If you're down in the 11, 10 range, maybe even 9, depending on the person, not a huge deal. As for operational life, basically the same, to be honest with you. Being in that 10, 12, 14% range, we'll say, to keep it easy, 10 to 15% range is going to be most optimal for your health in general. Down towards that 10% range, it's very individual. Some people don't feel good and they sometimes see like their hormones take a hit when they're around 10%. Almost everyone could hang out at 12% though, maybe 13%. And feel pretty damn good. There are rare cases where if you get down to that body fat percentage, you may not feel great. But oftentimes in those cases, it's because the person getting there is not staying there long. What I have found, and you're not going to find a ton of data or studies on this, but just working with people as well as myself, as well as lots of other smart people that have helped lots and lots of people, typically you find that getting to a certain body fat percentage, especially if it's a leaner body fat percentage than you're used to, and hanging out there for a little while, getting through the hurdle, like the beginning where you're kind of not adapted to it yet, hanging out there for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, etc., you just get more adapted to it and accustomed to it. And you start feeling better at that body fat percentage range. Now, there's definitely a caveat. You can't get crazy lean, 5%, 6%, and just hang out there and start feeling good. That's a little bit unrealistic. If you're on PEDs, your hormones are probably not going to tank, but you're still probably not going to feel very good if you're on PEDs. If you have elite genetics, there are people who can walk around at 6, 7% pretty much year round and feel good and not see a lot of health decrements. But those people are very rare. If you follow influencers on Instagram, those are the type of people that can hang out in the mid single digits and feel okay. And honestly, even if they say they feel okay, oftentimes those influencers don't really feel all that good behind the scenes, and or they're taking a lot of drugs in order to maintain that and not just kind of fall apart at that level of leanness. So as far as when you're in SF or when you're in SOF or really when you're in any tactical environment, being crazy lean in such a way that it affects your performance or health negatively, not great. If you're in that 12% give or take range, then you should be good to go. Personally, I stayed around 10% give or take most of my career. The only time I got up above that was after Ranger School. And that was very, very temporary just because I couldn't stop eating, which is often the case for people after Ranger School. But I got myself together pretty quickly and I was back down to getting lean. So I feel pretty good around 10%. If I get below 10 and I stay there too long, I start to feel not as great, but that is just individual. So really just depends on the person. But if you have gotten lean before and you don't feel very good when you're that lean, and of course you're not crazy lean, you're in that 10 to 12% range and you want to get there again, but you're worried about not feeling good, I would consider getting down there and hanging out there, just getting through that initial feeling of not feeling great for a couple weeks, and your body will adapt. It'll kind of be almost like a new set point. And I would expect you to start feeling better. Of course, there are exceptions to that, but for most people, you just got to give it a chance and stay consistent and stay there for a little while, and you'll start to get used to it. And that'll be like your new normal. That would be what I recommend. Are there guys that are way higher than that? Absolutely. But I don't necessarily think that shooting to be extra fat is a very good thing for your health, let alone your appearance. Believe it or not, appearance does make a difference. You are going to be, SF is one of the most judgmental organizations in existence. And also when you're wearing a green beret and a long tab, you're a walking billboard for the organization. So if you're walking around with a green beret and a tab and you can't differentiate your chin from your neck, or your belly's hanging out over your belt, then that's not really given the unit or the organization a very good look. And there is this unfortunate stigma around what's up with all these SF guys that are overweight. And it's really unfortunate. I personally never stood for it, and I think it's a problem. I don't care if someone can meet the physical standards. Appearance still matters. You're going to get judged by your partner force. You're going to get judged by other SF guys. You're going to get judged by higher leadership. You're going to get judged by guys in the regular army who look up to you. You're even going to get judged by civilians. And if you tell someone you're an SF, or if someone finds out you're an SF and they're shocked because of your appearance, then that's a problem. So a little bit of a rant, but definitely don't let yourself go and just feel like you've arrived and you've done all the hard stuff and it's all behind you. Now I can just coast. Being overweight is, unfortunately, if you see someone that's overweight, that's a clear sign that they lack discipline in at least that area of life. It's a very objective sign. And there's a quote you guys probably have heard: how you do one thing is how you do everything. That quote is pretty trite. Quotes become trite because usually they're true. So if someone lacks discipline in one area, that doesn't mean they lack discipline in every single area, but it is a decent indication that they are not as dialed in as they should be, and they don't take their job as seriously as they should be. And they also are subject to complacency, and complacency in SF is a big no-no. It gets a lot of people killed. I'm not saying that being complacent with your diet is directly going to get someone killed, but it is kind of a downstream effect. If someone is just generally sloppy and complacent with how they take care of themselves, their training regimen, their diet, their lifestyle, their health, how they value their health, then I just don't know if that person's also going to be complacent in other areas of life. And in my experience, the overweight guys I've been around in SF, oftentimes they are complacent in other areas of life. And it's unfortunate. And when you have a team full of guys that want to get these really good missions, that want to go crush, they want to get these good training opportunities, and 2 or 3 guys on the team just look sloppy, that kind of gives the team a sloppy look. And not that you get missions directly based on what the guys on your team look like, but it's definitely a factor. And if one team is super squared away and everyone on their team looks squared away, like they take care of themselves and like they take their physical fitness seriously and their health seriously, versus another team where some of the guys do, but other guys don't, maybe that team, that first team, is going to get a mission that otherwise could go to that other team if guys were a little bit less sloppy. So I understand that was a big time rant, but that is obviously something I have strong opinions on. And that's what I would kind of give you guys for tips if you are aspiring to go there. Just keep yourself somewhat presentable. You don't have to look like Rambo. Rambo definitely would not be a good look to go for. Rambo is way too lean to maintain. He took extreme measures to get like that. But there's a big gap between Rambo and fat. So somewhere in there, that's what I would shoot for.